Well, this could be a train wreck. We're about to find out, but this is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 41.
For me, winning streaks is like crack cocaine, as Doc referenced. I just get to where I can't have enough of it.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host, who refuses to watch horror movies because he's scared, Clay Trader.
That is right. Last time I saw a scary movie was the movie Scream, and the guy wears that scary mask, and I swear for like the next month, anytime I approached a dark window, I thought that face was going to pop up. So I do not like scary movies. My imagination, I guess, just runs wild, even though I am over 30 years old. So maybe embarrassing, but I don't know. My imagination is just like when I was 5. Ches, where do you stand on scary movies? Are you a fan, or can you take them?
So the last one I watched was probably like Saw 2 or 3, which is a long time ago. But at the same time, no, I'm not in the business of trying to get, jump scared the entire time. So no, I don't find that enjoyable in movies.
Yeah, it's kind of a disaster. Well, we got to move on because we have a super special episode here. It is actually the 2-year anniversary of claytrader.com. I would be lying if I said that I knew for sure this was going to happen, let alone it'd be just an epic lie if I said that I thought that 2 years from when I started that we're going to do what we're about to do right now, which is just hang out with a bunch of dudes I met on the internet and shoot the breeze about things. So for those of you that have listened before, this is going to be a much different format. We actually have 3 past guests back, and we are going to, just like I said, hang out. We have a few bullet points that we're going to go over, but other than that, we're going to go down some rabbit holes, I'm sure. And, just like I said, we're going to make it like we're just all sitting around having a drink and, just talking about, kind of our experiences here. And like I said, we'll just see where things take us. So if you think this is a total train wreck, which full disclosure, it very well could be, I know I'm going to have a good time. I hope everybody else has a good time that's on the call. But for you listeners, if it is a train wreck, I kind of apologize because, like I said, I plan on having a good time. But go back and you can listen to all the other episodes where it's actually more of a traditional interview format. So don't just base your impressions off the entire podcast based on this episode. And also, before I forget, if this actually turns out to be good and you enjoy it and you want us to do more of it, definitely leave that in the comment section and let us know because, we can definitely put some more of these together. So let's bring on our guest here. Ches, how are you feeling right now, knowing the characters we have?
I'm a little bit nervous, mainly for just one of the guests who goes by the name Nate Wilson. He's a big troublemaker in the group. We've had to ban him, about 10 times. Other than that, Artie is an outstanding student and, a great trader. Doc is a great trader. So it's only that Wilson guy I'm worried about. He's the only problem child of the group, mainly.
Yeah, we're off to see. I was supposed to introduce them, Ches, so you just stole my thunder. So
I did. See, that's why I'm trying to get, I'm trying to get in here and get famous by, being the introduction guy now. Yeah. So I'm just stealing this podcast right away from you.
So we'll, let's actually officially introduce them. So first we have Artie Trader 12. He was on episode 5. Artie, how you doing?
Pretty good, Clay. How was everyone tonight?
Pretty good. You're down in Arkansas, right?
Correct.
All right. Next we have Nate Wilson from episode 9. Nate Wilson is in Baltimore. Nate, how you doing? And he's not paying attention.
Very well. Thank you very much.
This is not off to a good start.
I was paying attention.
Then what was up with the pause?
He's doing fantasy football or something on his phone. Don't lie.
I already got criticized that I'm the terrible trader of the group. The other guys are great traders. I'm just here to cause trouble. That was my introduction.
He gets so hurt about my little joke. That's good.
He does. He's pretty
thick
offensive.
Skin is gone.
And then we have the enforcer here. He's gonna be the glue. I have a feeling. We have Doc from episode 24. He is our residential chiropractor. So if I decide to break Nate's back or whatever, or maybe RD will break, who knows? Maybe we'll all break it. We have somebody here to fix it. So we're just going to hop right in. And the way I'm going to kick this off is I got an email a couple weeks ago, and I read this on a webinar, and it's probably, claytrader.com is 2 years old, but I've been, doing this a lot longer than 2 years, but this has got to be the most, I don't know. I don't even know what word, just tiradical just all out assault, deny. I don't know. We'll talk about it. So I'm going to read through it. So I got a message and it says from a person, I got stuck in the NBG halt last Friday. I was swing trading it and it reopened 70% down. Is there any legal action I can take or am I basically screwed? It wasn't a huge loss for me, but still frustrating. So I replied back to this person, to be blunt and use your wording, you are screwed. Sorry for the loss. And then he replies back, and I'll do the G-rated version. Yeah, man, I lost 6,500 all because of the halt and watching your video on NBG reversal. F this S, man. Had I never seen your GD video, I never would have bought it. You just influenced my decision, and now I'm effed. You're just like that greedy Martin Shirkley. How do you say his last name?
To be honest with you, I don't actually know how to say it. I think it's like Shirkley or something. I have no clue. I've never heard it on. I don't watch any news stuff, so I don't know how they pronounce it.
All right, yeah. So he's comparing me to that pharmaceutical CEO, and then he calls me a Wall Street piece of S, and then he tells me to burn in HE double hockey sticks. So this guy totally just unleashes on me. And I mean, I guess, Doc, you're a doc. What comes to your mind with this?
Well, clearly the guy's clueless and he's just looking to offset his stupidity onto somebody else. The funniest part about that whole, I don't know, that back and forth email was how he made it sound like it was no big deal, wasn't a huge loss. But then he goes like off the deep end about how he's screwed. So I don't know. The guy's just a little lost puppy, I think.
All right, and Doc, I agree with what you said there. I mean, definitely, if it wasn't a big loss, I don't think he'd be so emotional about it. But it's a couple things to point out there, and it's something good for new traders to learn. Halts are things that they're probably not familiar with, and that just points back to a couple good kind of habits to form. Not putting all your eggs in one basket or putting too much of your portfolio in one position, because especially swing trading where you're absorbed to a lot of market risk over a long period of time, that kind of thing can happen, getting caught in halts where even things like stop losses are kind of rendered useless, especially when it gaps way down in the morning. If you're not a very active trader selling, pre and post market, things of that nature.
Even overnight, the stop's not going to help this guy. So, I mean, clearly he doesn't know what he's doing. He was throwing darts and he was hoping to get lucky.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I think it's a classic, though. I'm going to cut you off, Wilson, right here, and you can take me from this. But the thing that's classic and I think is universal, regardless of the halt or not, is that usually you can see these people from a mile away that they want to blame somebody else. It is never their fault for that loss. It is Clay's fault for, quote unquote, influencing his decision with his chart analysis, which is literally just a picture of a chart that anybody in the world can look at any time. So that's, I just think, like a universal thing that we always kind of see is you're always looking to pass blame. It's too difficult for these people to just kind of accept that they made a decision, it was wrong, and now they have no idea on how to manage their downside.
Yeah. I mean, I think the one sad part about the whole email exchange is the fact that he did get caught in a halt, which really wasn't, the fact that the stock halted wasn't anything that had to do with him. He was invested in a stock for whatever reason he picked, and he got caught in something that was out of his control. But I think the reality of the message behind that is
no, because was it his control? Was it out of his control though?
No.
I mean, is there a way that you can see in a halt? Because I think for NBG, I'd argue that this thing had like 50 down days in a row. So I mean, can you really avoid a halt? You can't totally, but I mean, circumstances, you would think maybe I shouldn't be swing trading this one with the circumstances.
All right, if you hadn't cut me off, what the point I was getting to at the end was, I think the reality of this situation comes back to risk management and the fact that if this did look like a sketchy stock or if it had 50 down days in a row, then he probably should have managed his risk a little bit and not put so much money into this investment. And if he wanted to do it as like a little bit of a speculation that he was going to catch a bounce, then obviously start off with much smaller of a position size and see what happens. And I think that's like the lesson to be learned from this is that, whether he was right or wrong on the trade, it is not as detriment to him as it is Like if he hadn't risked so much money to the fact that he obviously now is upset that he lost whatever it was, $6,500. Because if he wasn't upset, he wouldn't be cussing you out over email.
That's true. So you're saying that if anything, if you think a stock should be halted, still play it, just reduce your position size. Is that what you're saying, Wilson?
Well, my point is, I don't think the guy really thought the stock was going to get halted. I mean,
well, I go back to Doc's point. Doc says this guy doesn't know what he's doing. So I think that's the core issue
well,
here.
maybe he doesn't. Maybe
I guarantee you he does.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah, well, that's my point is maybe he doesn't know what he's doing. But so he's in that case, he's not going to then think, if he doesn't know what he's doing, he's not going to think, oh, I got it. The stock's going to get halted. No problem. I'll put my money in it.
Well, the simple fact that he's emailing Clay and cussing him out via email tells me that he doesn't know what he's doing. Any professional, any professional, would have 5% or less of his portfolio invested. Even if that happens, it's not going to cripple him. And then you're not going to be over emotional enough to come at somebody via email if you do know what you're doing. So he's probably better off served instead of throwing stones, throwing darts. He should probably take some of that money and maybe invest it to maybe understand what happened so it doesn't happen to him again. Would probably be his best move next. But, whether he does that or not, who knows?
If he knew what he was doing, then he had to realize that was probably a risky play. And like you guys said, maybe he adjusts his position size. Bottom line, you don't throw it out there if you can't afford to lose it. And he did. He threw it out there. And again, it's because basically he doesn't know what he's doing. And he got caught in a grinder.
Yeah, and it's funny. I think one of you already touched on. I know he did on the webinar, but he says, in his first communication to me, I am basically screwed. It wasn't, or am I basically screwed, or it wasn't a huge loss for me. So he's saying it wasn't a huge loss, and then in the second one, he's he's saying that he's totally like screwed over. So I mean, just two ends of the spectrum in terms of his psychology. So I think it was. I don't even know what to think about it. It's just confusing because at one time it's not a big deal, and then all of a sudden when I tell him that the loss is the loss, it's maybe he was hanging on to a shred of hope that he was going to be able to recover those losses because there was like some legal action, but
maybe that credit card bill came due.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the first email kind of seemed like he was appealing to you to see if there was some way out of it. You were going to have some magic wand to get him out of the deal, and when you answered back, you're basically screwed. Then he went off, and I think he was hoping for some.
Yeah, I agree.
Some magic wand that Clay was going to wave and make all those problems disappear. Because after all, Clay, it was your
I agree.
fault.
I think he was looking for a lifeline.
Yeah.
Well,
For sure.
I think it
he was
actually
looking for a lifeline.
it kind of comes back almost to the spoof video that you and Nate made with the dumb ticker. I don't know if this is one that you maybe made a video chart on, but maybe he's looking for someone to tell him when to buy, when to sell, and then when something bad goes wrong, he's looking for someone else to tell him what to do or a way to recoup his losses. And then maybe once he finally understood there was no out, and then obviously he gets upset and the emotions start flowing.
Yeah, Ches, I know you speak with a lot of people on the site that come through and question. So I mean, if you have a question or whatever, and you click on the website, you don't want to chat with somebody online, that goes to Ches. I mean, do you see this mentality out there? Not this exact mentality, but is it pretty common that people just want to be told when to buy and sell, what's kind of the I don't know what you just
to give the
seems kind of
listeners a little bit
to
of
you?
background here. Yeah, to give the listeners a little bit of background here. I've actually complained to Clay and Nate. I said that our live support chat is too easily accessible because I actually get a ton of questions every day from people saying, should I buy here? Should I sell here? And that's when it actually opens the gate, though, in the sense of, I can kind of talk to them about why that's a real dangerous mentality to have. But yeah, I'm going to easily say that 75% of the conversations I have from people just passing through who don't have a maybe question about what we do here, they're literally asking a stranger, which is me on the other end. They have no clue who's going to answer this live support chat. And they are willing to ask me, should I buy here? Should I sell here? I'm down 50% here. What do I do? They're more willing to ask a stranger on the internet than to kind of, maybe learn and how to avoid it in the first place. But yeah, that's completely common, and I see it, and it's not changed. The trend is certainly up in that regards.
Yeah, it's amazing how lazy people are. I mean, I understand we all value our time. Now, be honest, because I'll kick off this party. I did that to an extent, but I'd like to think I had somewhat of an excuse. I used Jim Cramer for my first, puppet trade. So at least it was like Jim Cramer, the guy kind of has some credibility. But I mean, the three of you have, and you also, Ches. I mean, has anybody else here really just when they first got started, straight up looked for somebody else to tell them what to do, or am I the only one on this island?
I think.
Oh no, I
everybody
puppet
did.
traded. Yeah, I puppet traded Kramer, Jim Kramer, like the Mad Money like picks. He would put a stock on his show. Like back when I first started, he'd put a stock on his show, and then I can remember the next day or two just like buying it and just being like, okay. Kramer said to buy it, but I think I mean I read some of his books. So then like as you start reading the books, you understand like he'll tell you how to watch the show and stuff like that and what makes sense. So, but yeah, I think a lot of people puppet trade him right off the bat, which is I don't know. I think it's just part of the learning experience.
Hey, at least you guys puppet traded Jim Cramer. I think my very first week of trading pennies, I puppet traded someone, and I did know him via a real life friend. Literally a chat room where it said, "Hey, buy here, sell here" during the penny stock market boom, and you can imagine how well that turned out for me. So,
Did it turn out very well?
no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And actually, I still have 1 million shares of a stock sitting in my E-Trade portfolio today at no bid, and that's a pleasant reminder of.
Well,
when Trump becomes president, don't worry, he'll legalize it across the country. You'll be a millionaire. Don't worry about it. What about you, Doc? Though I want to hear if you actually puppet traded anybody.
Oh, I'm sure I did. I mean, kind of the same stories. I mean, I would watch Kramer, or somebody was going to give me some hot tip. God, I even took advice from so-called professionals that got me into trouble, brokers. I didn't have any education. I mean, I just, I thought I knew something and do it all the time. Now, I never got into the penny stocks. I played one penny stock my entire life. And again, that was on a tip and that blew up. So.
Well, what was the tip?
I mean,
EDIG was the ticker.
Okay, and the tip was what? It's just this thing's going to be a great company. It's going to the moon.
Yeah, one of those deals. Buy money there, or put your money in this. Buy this stock. It's it's a hot one. It's going to take off, and it did initially. And I hung on to it.
Yeah, Wilson, why don't you tell the story that you did at the Chicago meet and greet, where you were just your experience with penny stocks and how like you knew what was going on, but at the same time, you didn't really know what was going on. So just, and I want to preface this by saying you are an investment banker, so you know a thing or two about balance sheets and all that sort of stuff. So why don't you tell us like what you were telling us at the Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah, so when I first got into these penny stocks or started following them on Twitter, I don't even know what the right word is, but I had put some money into it, like following along, and it was one of those stupid, like I really was getting lucky, like I guess I got in early enough where people were just buying behind me. And so then I remember the first time, like I just typed in, the ticker on the Twitter feed, like in the morning, like normal, just to kind of see what was going on. And, everybody on there's writing like news, 10K out today. And, get big gap up. And I was like, I didn't even really know what they were talking about, like as far as like what the news meant or anything. But so then I think I probably logged on to like Yahoo Finance and like saw that they had released a 10K. And so being in the investment banking field, I knew what a 10K was. I knew how to read one. So like I clicked through it and like literally started reading, the balance sheets and the income statements of this company. And I was like, oh my God, like this is horrendous. There's nothing good about any of the numbers that are inside of this, 10K. And so I don't know why people are so happy that they released this, but, lo and behold, that stock gapped up that day. And I don't think it dropped at all. I think it was green the entire day and then kept running thereafter. So nobody was buying because of what the 10K actually said. They were buying all because of somebody was telling them news was out and that was good. And so it was one of those eye-opening experiences where I knew right then and there that like it was almost too good to be true. I knew it was going up and I knew that didn't make a whole lot of sense, but I was willing to ride it as long as I was making money. And so I think you can go back and listen to my podcast. And I definitely wrote it up and made a lot of money. And then I was riding it back down before I finally got back out. And I did get out making money, but it took it to go up and come back down before I realized that the party was probably over.
Yeah, that always kind of, it makes me laugh because it's like you're in the investment banking field. So for you, if I try to put myself in your shoes, like you're looking at these numbers and like this is pure garbage, and yet something like totally counterintuitive against what the 10K is telling you is happening with the stock. It just keeps going up and up. So it really just goes to show, I guess, in the world of penny stocks that fundamentals, none of that crap matters. It's just if there's enough hype out there to keep it moving, then so be it. But as soon as that hype dries up, down she goes. And is that pretty much happened to you too, RD? As were you ever doing well in yours, RD, or was yours pretty much?
Surprisingly, for the year, I think 2014, I actually profited, out of it doing nothing but penny stocks. But pretty much it was getting lucky on 2 or 3 that turned into about 250% gainers. I mean, there were several that. And my main issue with them was I was following people in just completely illiquid stocks. Buy it and it may take 2 or 3 days to get out sometimes. We're talking 0001, 0002 type stuff when I first started. I didn't understand, the liquidity and really what I was trading. It was more of, hey, this guy looks like he knows what he's doing. Let me jump in and see if I can maybe make some money. So that was more of my issue.
Yeah. Doc, why don't you, because I know you're good with the analogy, so maybe not necessarily come up with one right now, but if you can, go for it. But why don't you explain to the listeners liquidity? What does that even mean? Why is that so important?
Do you want to know what I know about it now or what I knew about it then?
Look, whatever you feel like talking about, man. We're just having a drink. You this is your show, man. This is your movie. We're just all watching it.
Well, back in the day, liquidity meant water to me. It meant nothing. I mean, it was just wet. But again, it goes back to education. I mean, the more I got educated, the more I started getting into the technical analysis, so to speak, and volume and what it meant, and the fact that some of these stocks are so thinly traded, and then others you look at the volume on a daily average, and you're talking about like the SPY. What's a SPY trade? 100 million shares. Some crazy number. It trades a lot. So you start to realize that when you start playing around with these stocks that trade like 20,000 shares a day, you're playing with fire. And it makes it very, very difficult to get in and out of some of this stuff. And that's basically what the liquidity is to me. I mean, I used to look at some of these stocks and I'd see a nice chart pattern, but then you'd see 12,000 shares traded or 15,000 shares traded. I avoid them like the plague now.
The thing is that it's not, you can get in, no problem. There's always somebody willing to sell you a share, but the getting out part is, that's where you can't find. It's like everybody stepped away and says, just kidding, you got these shares now, enjoy it. And then you pretty much might be stuck waiting for another sucker to come in there, regardless of how good the chart pattern is. But I can assure you when I traded pennies right in the beginning that I would literally watch the time and sales, and sometimes there would be minutes of no prints. And the chart is just a dash. There's no prints, no change. And I'm sitting there staring at it, wondering, what am I doing? And that's when I realized that, there's not enough people in this. There's not enough money, and there's no way to kind of rotate hands or for anything to really follow through.
Yeah, go for it, Doc. Go for it.
That's the same thing with options. We talked about options all the time. And, you look at open interest. And, you see a chart pattern or whatever, and you say, well, this is a nice chart, and I'm going to play this chart. And you go check the options. And you look for even on some of the monthlies, there's like 50 shares or 50 contracts open. And you're like, what's this? Back in the day, I'd be like, it's a good strike price. I'm going after it. I never even gave open interest a second thought. Now that's the first thing I'm looking at after I decide what I'm going to do with the option is I'm going over to open interest. Now you want to find some of these stocks, Baidu's one of the ones I play a lot. I mean, there's contracts that'll have 1,000 or 2,000 open interest, but the same principle applies with the option. You see an option and you want to play that particular strike, and you see like 3 open interest. You got to stay away from that because, like Ches says, you can buy it. Somebody will be happy to sell it to you, but good luck trying to get out of it.
And it still happens. It still happens in the big boards too, because I know, like when I first was learning the the technical analysis or the charts. Like I own two private mortgage insurance companies that I had invested in like back from my fundamental investing days. And like when I would pull up the charts, like when I first was learning on those tickers, it would have those like almost penny stock style charts where it would be, like if you looked at like a low time frame, like a 2-minute chart, there just would be like no stocks traded in that 2 minutes for those tickers. And they're, $10+ stocks. So they're listed on real exchanges and they're real stocks. They just don't have that much volume or liquidity, moving in and out of them on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, another issue with some of those illiquid stocks too is that sometimes like you're referencing, the charts don't read clean because there's not many transactions per day, but also one buyer or seller can manipulate the stock, whether it's meant to be manipulation or not. Someone that's been holding a bag for a long time finally decides to get out. They could move the ticker quite a bit in one day just trying to liquidate their position. So that's some other pitfalls that you run into with these illiquid stocks.
Yeah, I think I did that to the mine stock at the end. Remember my story about that?
Yeah, no, tell it, because it's a perfect example of why penny stocks are like, it can be so dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, the one day I decided, I think I had at the end like 2.5 million shares of mine at the end. Like it was absurd. And I remember like I'd finally like got to it was actually like the penny stock survival guide. I was like halfway or 3/4 of the way through it, and like it was like some video in there, like all of a sudden the light went off, and like I had already wrote it up and down and then back up, and it was coming back down, and I was like, oh my god, this is like this is the penny stock cycle, and this thing is getting ready to die here, and I just need to get out like while I still have have made money in this thing. And I can remember like I just did it in like 500,000 or maybe it was 2,500,000 share lots. I think it must have been 25, because I didn't want to pay a whole bunch of commissions like to like do it in like. But I also didn't want to just go ahead and put like 2.5 million like sit there on the ask and let people like slowly chip away at it. So
yeah, let me before you go on. I mean, penny stock players will be like, especially if you go on message boards, like everybody like tries to be a community, like sell at the offer. If you're going to sell, just sell at the offer. Everybody's always saying, okay, sell at the offer. Man, when it gets to the point like Wilson's about, who cares about selling at the offer? This is not a team sport. Okay. Don't let the message board call, Kool-Aid. Okay. Everybody's got to sell at the offer. Wilson, tell them what you did.
Yeah. Like 250,000 shares a pop. I was just whacking the bid as hard as I could.
You were just smoking that bid.
I was just smoking it. And as soon as 250 got eaten, I was throwing another 250 on the board.
Was the price dropping while you were doing it though?
And it was dropping the whole time. and every time, that's why I was doing 250,000 share lots, because I would make sure if it dropped, I didn't have a little bit like sitting out there on the ask and having to cancel and like redo. I was just going boom. And as soon as it went down a little bit further, I'd lower it and just go down a little further with him and just whack the next guy out of there. And I cleaned out all 2.5 million of those shares in literally probably less than 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, I just whacked the hell out of that thing.
Okay, so here's the question though. How do you, and ballpark it on the conservative side, how much did the price actually drop while you were doing that?
I don't know.
Percentage-wise. I mean, 10%?
Yeah. I don't think that much. It didn't move that. I don't remember. Like it couldn't have been 10% because I probably would have been pissed off like at myself that I didn't get out if I sold the last lot for 10% less. But
the point being, I guess I'm trying to get it is the price did go down at least a little bit, right?
Oh, it was going down while I was whacking it. Yeah. It definitely.
Okay. So back to RD's point is about manipulation. Now, Wilson wasn't intentionally trying to manipulate it, but when one person decides to sell, if that one person can cause the price of your stock to go down, that's not a good sign. I mean, think about if you're going to go trade SPY or Apple. Like any of us, we could sell some shares and the thing's not going to budge. It'll like laugh at us like, yeah, whatever. This does hundreds of millions of dollars per day. Like it doesn't care. But like Wilson's literally saying that when he decided to get out, he influenced the price of this stock. That's what we mean by low liquidity, and what, to RD's point, like, intentional or not, when stocks can be manipulated because there's just not that much out there in terms of a marketplace for them, it's kind of a scary thing. And I'm not sitting here saying avoid penny stocks like the plague. I firmly believe there's better ways to do it, but you better make sure, going to Doc's point, I really hope, if you're taking anything away from this conversation, check that volume before you participate in anything, whether it's penny stocks or options, because am I preaching the truth here?
Well, I mean, these are just all factors. Like, if you want to be a long-term consistent trader, it's so difficult to do it in penny stocks for all these reasons. Because eventually, no matter what kind of system or how good you get and careful you are, one of these factors we're discussing is going to bite you, and it's going to lower your consistency rate. And then also with pennies, you may not be able to have a set stop loss depending on how much it gaps or moves or one seller decides to get out. So all these factors combined make it very difficult to stay in the game for a long time if you're just trading pennies.
Nate, what I want to know is, while you were doing this, what was going across on those message boards? Were those people losing their minds or what?
Oh, they were probably saying, "Oh my God, there's a whale here! Watch out for the whale!" Because all they see is these red prints going off, and it's literally just Nate Wilson going, "I want out of this thing. Forget it." Now,
and I remember
you would have put in if he dropped 1 million shares at once and one print. People would have.
Oh, that would have been
out.
funny. That would have been funny.
And the thing is that, like, I remember once I got out, though, like, I was all the way out, and the price did not bounce back up. I mean, it kept going down. So somebody else out
started the trend.
Yeah, somebody else out there was watching me just literally dump this thing, and they were dumping with it. It wasn't like everybody was like, "Oh my God, buy this!" Load the boat, like, eat all these shares. Other people were like, "Oh, I'm going with them. Like, see you later."
Because that's the sad thing, is that mine was one of the most liquid penny stocks too. Could you imagine if you were in one that was doing $10,000 to $20,000 in volume a day? It may have moved 50%. I mean, who knows? I mean, trying to get rid of that many shares.
Exactly. And I have people, they tell me, yeah, I got, like $7,500. I've had some people, I got $20,000 into the stock, and I pull up the chart, and it's literally a situation where, and I always tell, I'm like, well, I hope you have a good exit plan, because if you try to get out on the bid and doing what Wilson did, at least there was enough liquidity for him to get out where he didn't totally crash the stock. But some of these people, like Ches said earlier, you can always buy, but when it comes time to get out, I mean, just to think about the amount of money that people have in some of these things, and it's just like, wow. When it's time for you to get out, you will literally crash the stock because, good question on Doc's part, but yeah, like when you start to sell, it's not like it's just you out there. Like, you can influence other people's, because when the price starts to go down, now other people are going to sell. So now not only are you competing to sell, now you've created competition because other people want to sell. But guess what? Because those people have sold, they're creating more competition because other people are freaking out. So it's literally like, I mean, you can start a tidal wave, in either direction, to be fair. Sometimes, and that's how the pumper groups do it. They'll all buy at the same time to create a bunch of momentum in the upwards direction, but that turns into a game of musical chairs. But it's funny to think everybody's freaking out, and a hedge fund must be dumping, and here it's Wilson over there, probably sitting in his underwear pressing the sell button. You probably were sitting in your underwear, weren't you?
No, I was at work. I was at work. I was sitting at work just dumping shares, like laughing all the way, because then I remember going back and looking like, yeah, I still made quality money on that. That was good.
The sad thing is, like, if any tinfoil, let me put it this way. If you're listening to this and you think that we're all the biggest scum of the earth because we're laughing about hitting the bid and not being team players in penny stocks and, hurting other people, if that's your thought process right now, take off your tinfoil hat and please realize that, especially penny stocks, is not a team sport. And in a market that's so illiquid, I'm sorry. If you think we're all a bunch of jerks right now because we're laughing over this story, you got to get with it. That's part of the game. If you're going to play penny stocks, is you better be ready to hit that bid. This little alias on the message board who claims to be trying to sell at the offer, I guarantee you they're not selling at the offer. If they are, they're a moron. I mean,
but see, that's the problem, Clay, is like some of these people, again, will get that, from hotstocks.com or whatever, get that great tip, and they load the boat, and they think this is it. This is my lottery ticket. This is my gateway to fame and fortune. I'm just going to buy this crazy stock that's got like, it's 0.0002, and, they're going to retire wealthy in a year. And they just, they swallow this tripe, and it's almost pathetic that people don't have enough common sense to realize what they're doing. And it's all this blue sky false hope that they're pinning their riches on.
All right, but this is a perfect segue into this next point from your podcast. And in fact, it's what caused me to title your podcast what I did about detoxing from a crackhead trading style. There is an element of drugs in the market, and I love that analogy. So I want to kind of talk about this because what it can lead to, especially for, I think, I will speak for everybody because I think we can all relate to this, is we always want to be trading because trading is like a drug, and we have the problem of, if I don't have a trade on, if I'm not getting my fix, then like I'm not being a good trader. So I guess I want to kind of just open that up. We all still struggle with trying to force trades. I mean, and I we don't have to necessarily go around the circle, but I mean, I'm curious what your guys' kind of tips and tricks are, if you have any, of how not to force a trade. So I'll just open it up from here, see who wants to jump in.
Well, I'm a recovering addict, so
I think we're all always recovering addicts from. I guess why don't you explain how your situation, just kind of recap what your podcast was about in terms of why did you even bring up the crack cocaine? I think that was what you used as the drug.
It was.
Seems fitting.
Yeah. Well, I got in that .com bubble era with options. I mean, I was trading. Well, I don't even want to say trading. I was investing in stocks and holding them for a while, buy and hold. But then the bubble came along, and I got introduced to options. And in fact, the first option trade was a covered call, and it worked out pretty good. Bought a couple hundred shares, wrote the call, held it for a month. It expired. Still had the stock. Got to keep the premium. I was like, this is great. So that kind of morphed into just buying and selling calls. Well, if you don't remember, do some research, go into some history. But back in the .com bubble days, stocks were moving like crazy. I mean, up and down. Amazon, 25, 30 points a day, up and down every day. If it was 30 points up today, it's going to be 30 points down tomorrow. And the guys that knew what they were doing made a ton of cash. I was not one of them. But I got lucky on a Lucent Technologies. LU was the ticker. In like 2 or 3 days, I played 10 calls. I don't remember the exact strike, doesn't matter. But I hit it for 13 grand. Man, that was probably the absolute worst thing that could have ever happened to me. It was like such a high. And I'm like, I couldn't get enough of this. And I just started buying 10 contracts of this, buying 10 contracts of that. And the next thing I know, I'm like buried. But I couldn't quit. It was just the thrill of being in a trade, the thrill of selling the calls. I mean, I didn't lose every single trade, obviously. I mean, I won some. But as time progressed, I ended up losing more than I was winning. Stops, I had no clue what a stop was. It's by 2-3 weeks out, I'll be fine. This thing's coming back. Drank the Kool-Aid. But you like I said, the worst thing that could have possibly happened to me was hitting that big one early on. Because like I said, you get a taste of it and you want more and more and more. And you never want to be out of a trade because there's always that potential for that big gain. And
it hurts more to not be in it and miss out on it than it would to say, maybe even losing. You'd feel worse missing that profit than you would just, just being in it and being wrong, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Ches, my famous saying was, I can't believe I missed that one. I mean, I would tell myself that every day.
That was your catchphrase.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't believe I missed that one.
Yeah, I think we've all said that one before. Oh yeah, that's yeah. Oh man, I would have if I just this or if I just that. It's just like.
But the problem is the mentality after that is I'm not going to miss the next one.
Yep.
And that's where you got killed. You didn't miss the next one, but it bit you.
And for me, what I struggle with, and more so then, but even now it's. I'll miss something and then I look at it, I'm like, wow, there's like 5 things in my favor. And then I do get that mentality. I'm like, but I will not miss the next one. And then I catch myself. Keep in mind, the first one that I missed had like 5 good things. It's like, wow, that had a lot of the stars align. And then the next one, because I'm in that mentality that Doc's talking about, is I will not miss this next one. There's like 2 things sometimes like one thing that looks good, and I'm like, all right, this is gonna be it. And then sometimes I go in and I'm like, oh crap, what was I thinking? Other times I do catch myself. I'm like, wait a second, that other one had like 5 good things going for it. This one has like maybe 2. So I mean, does anybody else kind of?
Let me jump in real quick, though, Clay. At least you had an idea of what ideals were. You looked for things. I got 2 good things here. I didn't even look at that. I just said, "Oh, this stock's moving. I'm jumping in." Moving averages, stops, trend line. Man, it was a stock. It was moving. I'm in. And I mean that. I mean, I'm embarrassed to even talk about it, but that was my style.
I mean, do you have? What's your kind of history with? I mean, first off, RD, would you agree that trading is kind of like a drug if you let it become a drug?
Yeah, I can agree. I mean, I don't necessarily have an addictive nature, but for me, it's winning streaks. What happens to me is I go, as you've seen, I've had a couple couple stretches, 6, 7, 8 weeks, green, 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 and what happens is I guess I just kind of get over absorbed into the stock market. Every day, all day, all night studying, and that's part of the reason I was successful. But what happens is I'll see marginal setups during the day and I think, well, man, I'm just, heck, I can't lose. And I don't think like that. But when I see a setup, as you mentioned, it may only have 1 or 2 things that I like or points of interest that I say, okay, that's something that's going to interest me and maybe taking a position here. Next thing you know, after several good weeks, I tend to find out that I have a couple bad weeks in a row. I start over trading. Then it's okay, well, a couple bad trades, not a big deal. Let me just hop right back in here. Oh, it's bouncing off this one moving average. Well, I didn't take into consideration market context, what the other time frames were doing, all things of that nature, things that I was doing in the past when I was having good trades. So for me, it's typically when I get on a little bit of a hot streak, I tend to almost kind of get I get kind of numb to some of the other information and start focusing in on 1 or 2 small things, which get me in bad positions.
So it's like winning streaks to you are like a Novocaine then. It numbs you up and then...
Yeah, I become kind of oblivious to like overall market context, things like that. And I guess I get so used to like, oh, well, I'm making a good green trade consistently. Well, this is not a big deal. Oh, yeah, Tesla's bouncing off this 200 on the 15, not taking into context the daily and everything, which is, looking completely opposite direction. I end up getting eaten alive. And then, as we know, I'm big on taking a week or 2 break. And that's typically what I've done is when I get into that kind of mindset and I get into that flow where I kind of catch myself and I say, okay, I got to step back for a minute. Usually a week or so away from the market will kind of fix that for me. So at least I've learned over the course of a year kind of how to alleviate that. But I mean, it's a direct reference to what you're talking about. I mean, addiction. I mean, it's almost like for me, winning streaks is like crack cocaine, as Doc referenced. It just get to where I can't have enough of it. So
it overwhelms you.
Mm-hmm.
It just takes you over. It overwhelms you. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally agree.
Wilson, where are you at on this?
Okay. Yeah, well, I think I have less of an issue as far as forcing trades go from other people since I trade at a full-time job. So I have the ability to like minimize my screens and then actually do my real work that I'm supposed to be doing in the first place. So whenever I feel like I'm getting ready to like start forcing something, or I know it's lunchtime or the middle of the afternoon and I shouldn't be even looking for trades, then I usually try to focus on my real work. And so I usually try to just trade, in the first, hour and a half or hour of the day from 9:30 to 10:30 or 11. But I do find myself every now and then sitting there at, if I'm bored at work and nothing else is going on, sitting there looking for
if you're what?
Sitting there bored at work.
Bored. I swear, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I think boredom is the root cause of so many forced trades. It's just like, well, there's not really any good YouTube videos out there. You're
exactly.
Looking at, it's like, yeah, nobody. I sent out some text messages, but I guess everybody else is kind of busy at their real job, so nobody's talking to me here.
No, what happens with boredom and me is things start to look a lot better than they did 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, yeah. So if I'm bored at work, I find myself like pulling up charts, like watching the little scanner I have, and I'll start like, doing the whole make believe. Oh, 3 little green things in a row, and I'll pull it up real quick. Oh, it's kind of might be overextended somewhere somehow. Hold on, let me pull up the 1 minute, and then I'm like, should I do it? Should I do it? And then, luckily 9 times out of 10, I talk myself off the ledge, but I still
yeah. I'll definitely give you credit. You seemed to be very good with not forcing trades. And I do think, at least from my perspective, I think the lounge that we have now, chat room, I think that helps. I mean, I like to go in there once in a while and just tell people about the voices that I'm hearing and just people like, yeah, I'd really like to force a trade right now, but I probably shouldn't be doing that because at the end of the day, I think boredom is just like,
yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it for me. If I get bored, that's when I start trying to force something.
Well, I mean, something that you referenced, Clay, and I've seen you do this in the lounge, is something that's helped me is if you just paper trade it. If it's middle of the day or you think maybe, hey, maybe I'm getting bored. I mean, you can still get practice in the market by paper trading. You don't actually have to put real money, especially if it's something midday, volumes low, all the factors we just talked about. So that's something that kind of helps me keep my finger off the buy or sell button on my live account during that time.
Yeah, actually, that brings up a good. This is what I was hoping for. We're just random thoughts but pop in. But the main thing I usually paper trade is just like to slap myself in the face. Most times, I paper trade when I want to chase. Well, I'm like, holy crap, this thing's going up. This going up. I should buy. And then you're like, all right, I'm going to buy right here, and I'll paper trade. And I'd say probably 7 out of 10 times the thing freaking crashes. Like I'm like, wow, I would have bought the top. So, how are all you guys doing in terms of? I mean, chasing, does anybody struggle with chasing? Because it's such a emotional high to see like a stock dropping and dropping. You're like, wow, I should be shorting this right now. It keeps dropping. Or on the flip side, it's going up. It's going up. It's going up. I should be buying. I mean, do any of you guys struggle with chasing? Because I still do to this day.
I implemented a huge rule that completely helped me a ton. I used to be a huge market order guy for kind of any kind of scalping or just anything where I just want to get in, or even if it was options, even if it had a 5-cent spread or larger. And now I'm strictly on limit so that I actually can't chase. So I have to kind of set my limit at either a level of support or if I'm selling at a level of resistance. So I'm forced to wait. And that has saved me so much money over the past few months. I can't even begin to tell you how much.
I mean, I kind of have the opposite problem. I think back in my penny days, if you can call it chasing sometimes on those Momo pennies, but the problem I have more now is that the first level of resistance it hits, I'm thinking, oh, it's going to reject here. I end up getting run over by the train, trying to short it or buy puts, at those levels. So kind of what Ches referenced. I mean, either, if you're going to play something like that, you got to be hyper aggressive in your profit taking. That's kind of more the issue I have with trading is more jumping in front of the train before it's done.
That's my problem too. I mean, I tend to not as much anymore, obviously, since I got a little bit of education, but I used to front run everything. Man, I was out in front of every move that was out there and got run over most of the time. Now it's like, that mentality of, look at, I missed that move. I missed that move. Now, especially the way the market is now, I see something taking off. And I'm looking for a back test at this point. I'm like, no, I'm going to wait because I know this thing's going to come back because of the nature of the market. So, I mean, again, I've developed some better habits with my education, watching the market more that, I've increased my patient level to the point where I'm not running out in front of them like I used to. But I was the king of front run. I mean, I got railroad tracks up and down my back from getting run over so many times. But,
when you were getting run over, though, did you have stop losses in place, or is this before?
The stop. What's the stop loss?
Okay,
No.
okay. So this is did you like average up or average down at all, or I mean?
I did that all the time. I averaged down all the time. It's like I'd buy 3, 4, 5 contracts, and it's going against me, and like if my cost base is $2, I'll just buy 3, 4 more, and now my cost base is $1. This is great. So I just kept throwing more money into the fire.
See, I've done it with stop losses. I mean, I think I've referenced back in October, I had a day where I think I jumped in front of Netflix 3 times, 3 stop losses before noon, just trying to get in front of something, especially like Netflix, that as we know can go on some monster runs. So had to really teach myself. Yeah, I really had to teach myself to be patient and really, really see the weakness before I, once again, going back to not necessarily boredom, but things start looking better than they actually are. It's, oh, look at that 2 minute. Oh, we got a little wolf on the 2 minute. Well, here comes the 15 and the 30, coming up for support to push it on through. So, learn my lesson on that, over the course of a couple months for sure.
Let me ask you this, RD, because you said earlier, I'm not sure exactly the words you use, but you're stepping in front of a train, whereas you need to work on, or maybe it was somebody said something about just making sure that maybe train starts to slow down a little bit, or just kinds of runs out a little momentum. So, but how do you do that now? Like, what exactly are you looking for to try to give you some sort of signs that, hey, maybe the train's running a little bit, is slowing down a bit?
Yeah, I mean, well, doing multiple time frame analysis, I mean, usually as you see, the dominoes will start to fall. The short term 2 minute supports will fall in regards to the SMAs. Then the 5 minute. I really like to look for like a good downtrend line formed, maybe over the course of 20 to 45 minutes. It's one thing to get 5 2 minute candles and have like a little bit of a lower high, but really with the other time frames coming up with the 8, the 13 other SMAs to support it, you don't really have enough data there. If I can get a good half an hour period and I can see a good downtrend line forming, maybe it's clustered at a group of SMAs or resistance level 2 just kind of as a bonus, that's really when I kind of start getting interested and maybe snagging some puts, or on the flip side some calls if it's maybe having a bottom bounce.
Plus the volume. You got to watch that as well.
Yeah, capitulation or like an overextension, big wolf candle, things like that. Like Doc referenced, you get a big, say it's something is running up really hard. You get a big, massive wolf on an overextension on the 2 minute, a lot of volume, a lot of selling volume. That's probably a good indicator. On the flip side, I think we call it capitulation in the room. Something's just, bleeding to death. All of a sudden you get a big volume surge, big overextension, boom, big hammer candle forms. Maybe it's at an area of support too. Those are some good indicators. Those are typically the things I look for.
Yeah, Doc, what about you? You mentioned volume. So I'm assuming it'll probably mimic RD's answer there quite a bit. But I mean, what how do you like to see volume act? What kind of floats your boat when it gets into that regard?
Well, I mean, it depends. I mean, if I'm looking to try to get into something, or I'm looking again, like I said, I don't do too much front running anymore. So if I miss a move, I miss a move. But if I still am interested in that particular stock, I'm watching it climb, but then I'm watching the volume. And if I'm seeing the volume decreasing somewhat too as it's climbing, it's kind of giving me an idea that people are just tired of buying it. They're not going to chase it at this point. And then, like RD says, I start looking for maybe some excuse me, hammer candles, or I'm sorry, wolf candles. If I'm looking to short it, or it's coming up against some trend line resistance or some moving average resistance, and I start to see the volume fall off, then I'm going to start to get a little bit more interested, because it's telling me that the people that are driving this thing up are getting tired, and you don't see as many people willing to buy that particular stock at that level. So now I might start watching a little bit closer, and then again looking for some of those reversal traits.
Yeah. Ches, I know you're getting into futures now, more so paper trading, and have put some real money on the line. I mean, what kind of setups are you looking for out there in the futures market?
So generally, I've been trying to trend trade for so long, and I've lost a lot of money doing that, because the thing I was neglecting to realize is that a majority of the time the market isn't trending. It may just be completely choppy, range bound. And, the real way to take advantage of that is to literally, buy support, sell resistance. And with this future stuff, I've actually been really putting that into practice finally, because I think with my options trading and, the not advanced ones, the ones that were directional strictly, I was looking for those home runs. I was looking for, before Netflix split, I was looking for Netflix to run $10 or Baidu to run $10. And, I didn't have the patience to wait, and I'd always get stopped out really fast, and it was over and over again. I think my win-loss percentage at one point was down in the 30%, and there's no way, even with good risk management, to get ahead. So I was just getting in at the inopportune times, but now I'm completely, I buy at support, I take my profits quickly, and I just kind of move along. And I've had a ridiculous amount of success, to the tune of a pretty good win streak. Like I said, again, this is all on paper. Because obviously, I'm going to practice before I start throwing real money on the line. But I've always had trouble buying something that's falling. And there's a ton of great traders in the chat room who buy. I know you guys buy back tests. It's this same kind of concept. But when you see a red candle, I don't know. For the longest time, it was so hard for me to put in an order there. It's like I'm trying to catch the knife. But if you really know your technical analysis, it's a completely logical place to, place your order, assuming you're still kind of managing your risk. So I've been doing that for maybe, I think, a month and a half now, and it's actually been going great. So I'm looking forward to going live with that in January with a strictly futures account.
Ches, you brought up a good point about risk mitigation. And see, that was something else that I never did. It's like, how can you get a home run if you don't have all these contracts on? And I never really, I mean, I understand it, but I just never applied it. And I'm finding myself now when I get into a trade, and especially when I'm you know, getting pretty green and it's moving up pretty well, I'll start peeling them off, like Clay teaches to mitigate and leave one or two for the home run and go into the old CFO mode.
Yeah, you let them work for you. If they want to
Yeah.
keep going, then they keep going. If not, you got your gains on the way up. All the times were good. But yeah, there's just, we see a lot of people, and I'm totally guilty of this, and I'm sure all of you are as well, of, letting a gain completely come back to even or even for a loss. I mean, we have had people lose thousands of dollars when they're up a couple $1,000s, go back to flat, and you can't let that happen. Well, you weren't the only one. You weren't the only one.
No. I
understand.
Happens. I understand a lot of the stuff that I did that was bad. I'm sure I wasn't the only one doing it. But I think one of the greatest assets, I mean, the whole course itself was fabulous. But one of the biggest points that I picked out that has really helped me become more successful is the risk mitigation, taking something off, taking some of that profit, putting it away, getting it off the table.
Put it in your pocket, get paid for your work.
Absolutely. That to me is one of the best things that I could have ever learned.
Yeah, it's
and if
amazing.
You want to and if you want to learn where to take that profit, then you go ahead and buy that RVR course that's being sold on claytrader.com, and you'll find out.
What a good guy this Wilson got. We didn't even plan out that plug. What? You want some commission off that, don't you?
I just figured I'd throw you a bone. That's where I learned.
What a nice Christmas present from you.
Yeah, that is. Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Wilson.
No, but everything, it's funny. I know he was kind of making a joke there, but I mean, really, the RVR course is what kind of set it off for me. Yeah. I didn't realize until I learned and got some of the information in that course, I realized that I didn't know how to manage a trade, even the ones I were in that were successful, let alone the losing trades. I was in, where do I sell? I get into a trade and all of a sudden I'm green. It's running my direction. And then I was kind of the panic mode, like, oh my God, what do I do? Where do I sell? Do I sell them all? And so that course really is what kind of put everything together for me in regards to completing a trade plan when I actually gotten one that went my way.
And I don't mean it in a joking manner at all. I seriously mean that to people because that's where I learned. I mean, that course did teach me how to manage those trades and how to actually build a trade plan, that made logical sense, that was also profitable, or at least had the potential to be. I mean, before that, people, that's like one of those catchphrases out there in the stock trading world where it's like, trade the plan. And it's like, well, that's all well and good. That's a great saying. But when you're first starting out, it's like, okay, well, how the hell do I come up with a plan? Or I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word, but how the heck do I come up with a plan? And I mean, it's like, okay, well, great, I'll trade the plan, but help me out here. What kind of plan am I going to make? And that RVR course, allows you to teaches you what you need to know about how to make a trade plan or build one, so you could then follow it.
Yeah, that's actually a perfect segue into kind of the final thing I want to talk about in general, pet peeves, because that's one of the biggest pet peeves of mine out there is people think a trade plan is, because I ask people all the time, what should I do here? And what's your plan? Well, I'm going to buy, and then it's going to be a swing trade. I'm going to buy, and then it'll be a swing trade. Now, maybe when people are brand new but for you listeners out there, if you heard them say, yeah, what's your point? Why did people just chuckle? I assure you, please don't be trading with real money. There is more to a trade plan than I'm going to buy and then it'll be a swing trade, or I'm going to buy and then it'll be a day trade. That's not a trade plan. I don't even know what that is. Can somebody hop in here and just because I'm about to start ranting and raving here, because this is one of the biggest pet peeves I have is people insult us because they think trading's that easy. Like literally, let's all stop and let's just marinate in this. And I'm going to try to get this all fired up here. People are insulting us by thinking, oh yeah, trading is as easy as you just have to decide you want to buy, and then it's like, then you slap like day trade or swing trade on it because you use some fancy term like that. Yep, that's all trade. That's all I need for long-term success. Somebody just take it. Somebody, I don't know.
That's you're making the point. That's why, going back to something we talked about earlier in the conversation about, the guy reaching out to you, pretty much asking where to buy and sell. And that's why people will never be successful in that type of format or community where it's buy here, sell here, because trade plans are fluid. the chart changes every candle. There's things, they are fluid. And without having the ability to understand for yourself what is going on, formulate an exit strategy once you're into a positive trade, that's what RVR is all about. I mean, and that's really pet peeve, as you referenced. I mean, that's why you're always going to struggle in that situation. Oh, great, I hop in, it's a day trade. Well, what happens if the next candle should be where your stop loss is, or it explodes up and you don't take any profit and you ride it all the way back down? I mean, there's a lot more to just buying. There's another part of the trade plan that has to be executed to secure that profit.
Yeah, I mean, you're even giving people more credit than they deserve, because they hop in and say, "Boom is a day trade." They don't have a stop loss. They don't have They don't have risk mitigation. They don't have a profit target. They don't have anything. I mean, and that's where it's like I admit I'm fully guilty of that. Like when I first started learning, if you told me to make a trade plan, I would have been like, all right, I'm going to buy right here. Why? I don't know, but I think it's going to go up. So my trade plan is to buy right here and then hope it goes up. But, that's what, the process of like, I then went ahead and, paid the money to get the courses and learn what, I would recommend anybody do, is learn from anyone. And in this case, I would highly recommend, the clay stuff. And that's where it's like, and RVR was the one course where it was like, that was where once you learn the fundamentals before that, the RVR one really helps you nail down how to make a trade plan. So then you could, you learn every little, point that goes into what makes up a trade plan, and then you know how to execute it.
Right.
You make a point.
I appreciate the kind words, but let's just pretend like there is no RVR course, that I sell 0 courses, so that way it doesn't come across as one big plug. Again, I appreciate the kind words, but I mean, that still doesn't change anything for what we're talking about right now. I mean, a trade plan, a proper trade plan is like super important, right?
But see,
again, let's pretend like there is no course. There's nothing to talk about in regards to that. Like, that doesn't change anything in regards to, there's more to it than like Wilson just said. Yeah, I'm going to buy because I think it's going to go up. That's literally some people's trade plan. My plan is I'm buying because I think it's going to go up. So that obviously
trade
opens
plan based on feelings, based on just a feeling you get from looking at it, which could be anyway. It could go any direction, depending on the wind. So yeah, that's
my trade plan used to be buy it, and I would sell when I got too scared that I was going to lose my money. That's what it was. I mean, I would buy it, and I think back to my first couple trades. I didn't sell till I was fearful of, oh my God, I'm down 40%. I got to get out. Finally the fear of losing the rest of my investment would set in. That's when I would sell, even if I'd been up 100% before that.
But I think a lot of people are I hate to say this, but I think a lot of people are inherently lazy. And to formulate a trade plan takes some work. It takes education. I mean, I don't want to be plugging. I know you don't want to have a plug. But to be educated in making a plan, even knowing what a plan is, it's going to take effort. And I think people are so used to like just having somebody throw them a fish. But once they get the fish thrown at them, they don't know what to do with it. And now they're stuck. And then the fish dies, and we all know what dead fish smells like. And that's what their account gets looking like.
This is going to kind of derail a little bit, but I do think we just are living in a society right now where, are you too fat? Buy this pill. Do you want to read 50% faster so you can do more in your life? Yeah, buy this, do this, do this.
It's instant satisfaction.
Right. They want to throw money at something to fix a problem. And what really comes down to trading is it's going to take time and it's going to take effort. There are absolutely 0 shortcuts in this game. And I wish somebody would have told me that a long time ago. But honestly, it's been the most fulfilling and challenging thing I've probably done my entire life. And I wouldn't change that for anything.
Well, here's what's so unique. Sorry to cut you off, but I was going to say, Doc, is what's so unique is the barrier to entry to the market is so low. And I mean, Clay, Doc, everybody's talked about this. You're not trading against brand new traders. When you come in and open your E-Trade account or whatever, it's not, okay, well, I'm only trading against the people who also just started today. I mean, you're trading against hardened professionals, institutions, fundamental. I mean, you're trading against everybody out there. So to think that you're going to be able to come in, have somebody you don't know on the internet tell you where to buy and sell and be successful, it really is mind-blowing when you understand that.
Well, we talked about this before, and I think it was one of Clay's videos, maybe, I don't know. But, to become a teacher, you need to go to school and get an education. To be a doctor, you need to go to school and get an education. To be a lawyer, to be an engineer, you have to go to school, get educated. To be a trader, all you need is money in an account. You can throw it down anywhere, and you don't have to know a thing. Just know where the buy button is. And all of a
It's
sudden,
the
now
same
you
as
become a
walking
trader.
into a casino. Yeah, you could go to Las Vegas and walk into a casino. It's the same exact thing for trading, except it takes a couple pieces of paper.
And this is why a lot of people think trading is gambling, because they equate it with just walking down, throwing their money on red, and saying, "Let's go, roll the wheel, spin the wheel, let's see where we go." And it's night and day. And this is what gets people chopped up. And then they sit there and they want to badmouth the market or badmouth, some guy that put out a video because they don't really know what they're doing.
Oh, hang on, Doc. The market is rigged, though, right?
Oh,
Everybody
that's right.
who
I
loses
forgot.
money tells me the market is rigged. It's
I
all
forgot.
manipulated. Yeah.
You're right about. Well, look at what Nate did. He manipulated that penny stock. He's a killer.
You awful bid smacker. You.
Man, my reputation has taken a hit on this podcast. I'm not gonna lie.
Wait a minute, Nate. I love you. You're still
Don't
my
say
man.
that. Kick him when he's down. It's Wilson.
I mean-
he deserves it. Everybody in the chat room knows that this guy deserves every bit of abuse
I've got-
that he.
I've got so few friends in the chat room left. It's
I
like
got your
Doc
back,
and nobody. I know it's Doc and nobody else. That's it.
We'll take
Everybody
on,
else.
We'll take
Everybody
on,
else kicks me.
But you know what? This is another pet peeve of mine: is the gambling thing. It's.
Yeah.
I think I told this in a webinar. I don't know if I've ever told this on a podcast, but this was several months ago. My mom, I was down in Ohio visiting, and she, I could tell she was kind of worried, a little hesitant to talk to me, and she's just, Clay, what you do, and are you really just gambling? Are you teaching others to gamble? And she was like being a mom, trying to ask me about it, but not step on my toes, but being very worried because obviously she doesn't want me to, obviously for me, but then other people, what are you teaching? And I was like, no. And she's just like, okay, because I was talking to a guy at work, and then I was just like, okay, here we go. So some bozo at my mom's work was, oh, that your son, oh, he trades, oh, something along the lines of hearing that I'm a trader, I teach trading, and then all of a sudden my mom's worried that I'm a gambler and all I do is gamble, and I'm teaching other people how to gamble. So it's just, that's the other thing. It's I don't know. It's I guess.
It's funny you reference your mother because obviously being in here for almost 2 years, I've told my mother about, I am trading, I'm doing, somewhat well. And, for her, it was, well, all I ever hear is negative stuff about stock market. It's negative. Is it, you're really just throwing your money away? Is it legal? She has no idea of what's going on out there, how the market even works. And I find that I have no one almost in real life to talk to about what I do, even though as much time as I spend on this, because no one around me understands. No one's tried to trade, invest. So I find it difficult to find, really personal people that have personal relationships with close to me to even talk about this kind of stuff with them, because all they think about is negative gambling. They associate the entire stock market with those kind of things.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And does anybody else want to chime in? I want to take this one final direction before I wrap up. Any other thoughts on that? Pet peeves or anything?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say about the whole gambling thing, where it's like, gambling, casinos allow gambling because the probabilities are stacked in the house's favor. I mean, when people go in, the chances are they're going to lose. And the reason they're going to lose is because that's why casinos are in business. They wouldn't be playing those games if you had a better chance to win than they did. So the odds are stacked against you when you go into the casino. And people are still willing to gamble money. Whereas even in the stock market, I would say you're making like an educated guess, or you're using information, and you're trying to build, like we've been calling it, a trade plan or an educated guess, and you're trying to put the probabilities in your favor that are greater than 50% that it goes your way. So, I mean, you're not gambling by any means, but rather, putting probabilities in your favor and making, I guess for the worst case scenario, it would be called an educated guess. But
Yeah,
that's
and
by no means gambling.
Right. And if anything, especially in the world of advanced options, you are the casino. Like, you straight up turn the tables, and, we won't get into all that. But I mean, there's some situations where you're like, wait, I can make money. And if the only way I'm not going to make money is if this has to happen, and this is like something totally crazy. But because people are gamblers out there and treat the market as gambling, it's just, there's still opportunities out there. So, but I want to talk about just just something that sticks out in your mind, because I'm thinking about, all right, 2-year anniversary. What's something that really sticks out in my mind? And I realize everybody here has not been here for the full 2 years, but I'll kick it off. And if anybody wants to chime in, I'm just curious, what is something that, it doesn't have to be a good memory, it can be a bad memory, but the one memory for me is O-Day. And O-Day was obsessed with NEWL. And that was a penny stock that just dropped. Or no, I think it was actually like a legit company at one point in time. I don't know. But all I know is that thing would drop and drop and drop. And O-Day was in the chat room, and, he'd be telling, I'm all in, I'm all in. And, people were around offering tough love. I mean, we're definitely, the chat room's a culture of tough love. We're not going to sugarcoat it. They're like, dude, just, there's no shame. Just get out. Don't go down with the ship. And he would almost make jokes about it. Like, no, I bought some more. It's either this is, going to make me or break me. And O-Day literally went down with that NEWL ship. And whenever I see that ticker symbol, I always put in the chat room, RIP O-Day, because it's just, I mean, so was anybody else around for O-Day?
Yeah. We always put
O-Day and the whole.
Oh, you guys are all around. You guys,
thing, yeah.
So Wilson and RD, you guys, I know RD was around, but Wilson, you were around too for O-Day?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much have been around. I think I joined like it was probably no later than April of that first year. I mean, so it was only a couple, or maybe might have been March. I mean, it was either March or April of that very first year. So I've pretty much been around all 2 years almost.
Yeah, I know Doc's probably the newest person here, but even Doc's been around for a while. But I mean,
my anniversary is January.
Okay. All right. Well, coming up on it then. Yeah. So, I mean, so you guys remember O-Day? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that situation, or, I mean, any other memories or whatever, anything that just sticks out in your mind for one reason or another?
I mean, the O-Day thing. Yeah. What's his name? The Sith. The Sith was also
Sith.
Like,
yes.
Yeah, he was, but that was the penny stock room.
Yeah.
Thing. Yep. But that's got to be my number one memory, like, thing to reminisce was like when I first signed up.
Are you talking about the Sith?
No, just the penny stock room in general was like when I first signed up, everybody was in the penny stock room. No one touched the over $1 room, the big boy room. Like everybody was only in the penny room. And then like through time, and it's completely all like
through the market though. I mean, the market is literally dictated, because the penny stock market sucks. At the time of this market right now, the penny stock market is pure garbage. Like, I'll be the first to admit, when Wilson's talking about the penny stock market, it was actually worth trading. That marijuana stock boom, there were some awesome opportunities. But that's why I kind of, not to steal your thunder here, Wilson, but I've noticed that it's like, just economics in terms of the chat rooms itself, is you can see where the market's going, because anyways, go for it. But yeah.
But I mean, that's my biggest memory or thing that sticks out in my head, is that how like you used to always go in that under $1 room, and like nobody really gave a shit about the over $1 stocks. Like no one ever paid any attention. And then over time, it's completely flip flop, where no one pays attention to the penny room anymore. I mean, I guess it's all dried up. I don't even know. I don't even look at them. So it's like I only go in the over $1 room, and it's like, you almost just throw out your rest in peace to everybody who ever played pennies, because it's so dead now.
Well, someone will occasionally post like a penny ticker in the lounge, and I'll put it on my 2-minute chart, and I literally almost want to scratch my eyes out when I see what happens when I do that. But back on the O-Day thing you referenced, Clay, I mean, definition of insanity. He would come in here every day and just say, "Yep, buying more, adding more," and it's, you could just not see that he was just going to lose all of his money. And there was nothing we could say to him that would change his perspective on that. And it was kind of sad, but at the end of the day, if he's not going to change his ways, I mean, what can you do? Shake your head.
That kind of reminds me of, I'm probably the newest member of the group here, but Russ comes to
I was just going to bring him up if nobody else did.
Yeah, no,
let's talk about Russ. Give me your thoughts here.
He was the one that when I first got into the chat room, and what impressed me the most about this community is this poor baby, he was doing his thing, and everybody, I mean, I remember Hooch and Ches and Zen, and there was just a handful of people. I think Jules was even there. Everybody was trying to help this guy. And no matter what anybody did or say to help him, it was like he had this shield around him, and any good advice would just bounce right off of it. And he would argue and he would fight and he would disappear for a while and then he would come back. But I guess the thing that impressed me is how everybody in this community didn't know this guy from Adam, but they were trying to help him. And I mean, I'm a new guy. I'm like a week or 2 weeks into my membership, and I don't even think I bought. I might have bought because I first started with RT, and then I ended up going CTU. I think was just had the RT at that time. I mean, I was a baby, and everybody was just trying to help this guy. And I never seen somebody that was so stubborn and would not take anybody's advice, yet he's there. And it just blew my mind at how he wouldn't accept anybody's help, but everybody was bending over backwards. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the place to be. I mean, this group is trying to take this guy from the abyss. They threw line after line after line. It's like he took a knife and just cut the lines. But this guy cracked me up, and I guess he's nowhere to be found now, right?
Jez, why don't you give the rest of the story? I believe the ticker was LAKE.
It was certainly LAKE, and this was during the great Ebola scare of the here in the U.S. and just around the world and stuff. And unfortunately, Russ stepped in front of a freight train and he got completely hosed to the tune of $30,000. And the thing is it didn't have to come to that. He had multiple days to get out. And, like Doc said, we were only, giving him tough love, but we were honestly trying to prevent his portfolio fire. And, he wasn't having it. And, the thing is that, he blew up that account. He said he's going to come back. He's going to get serious about it. He's going to really take this serious.
100 times he would say that.
Yep. And then what does he do? He ends up coming back. He says a few words, and it's the same exact song as last time. He's stepping in front of the train based on some news event or some fear or something. And don't get me wrong.
Gamble.
There's opportunities in trading, various news and volatility and all that stuff. I get it. But if you have no plan, no way to manage your risk, you're doomed to failure. And I think that's the same for any kind of person trading at all. But he's blown up multiple accounts. He's, he doesn't come to the chat room. He's blocked us on Twitter. He's
talk
just,
about the ultimate
unfortunate.
guilty conscience. If you're blocking people on Twitter because you clearly don't want to see what you're up to, if that's not your mind saying, dude, you're doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing right now, then, I mean, it's...
But what blows my mind is, think about this. Really, we're all strangers to each other. We only know the words.
Come on,
on
Doc.
screen.
We all met on some internet chat room. That's
Okay.
not that weird, is it?
All
we're a bunch of dudes talking on Skype. We met in an internet chat room. That's not that weird.
Well, it might not be weird, but it's
it's definitely weird. My
Well,
wife.
Nate Wilson makes it weird with his.
That's true. That's true.
Hey, well, no one thinks it's weirder than my wife when I go to visit these people and then she's like, wait. So let me get this straight. You're gonna fly somewhere and meet guys who you met in an internet chat room, and I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine, totally cool.
No serial murderers here. We're all straight, right? We're words on a screen. Basically is what it is. But we come to trust each other and we've worked together. And I think over time you start to realize, Ches is giving me advice on something, or Clay just told me about this, or RD or Nate, or somebody's trying to guide me a certain way. And you take the advice with a grain of salt and you exercise some caution. But when you say, somebody tells you about risk mitigation and you test the water and you go, maybe he's right. Eventually you develop a trust. And Russ knew these guys and he knew you guys. And you'd have thought over the amount of time that you guys were working that he develops a certain amount of trust. And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to believe these guys. I'm going to listen to these guys. They're posting their gains. They're posting their losses. I've listened to what they said and tried a little bit of what they said, gave it, that advice a chance, and it turns out it was right. So you think that, the average normal person would start to develop a little bit of a trust and start to realize that this community is not a bunch of backstabbers. We're not, pumping a stock so that we can slap the bid. But it never sunk in.
You're hitting the nail on the head, because for me, it's okay. I see successful people. Clay, obviously, many people in here.
Right.
It's proven
Wilson
that they're
is not
successful.
successful, so make sure you make that.
And I'll give Nate credit where credit's due. He's done extremely well with playing some of the scalping that he's done lately. I mean, extremely well. Real high.
Don't get his ego does not need to hear that, please.
But
They're
here's what
all
comes
jealous
down-
because what you guys don't know is I'm sitting here with my shirt off on this webcam, and they're all staring at me, and they're so jealous right now that they're just gonna bash me over the microphone because they're staring at such a physical specimen.
Oh goodness! But
Yeah,
what I was getting at though, Clay, is seriously, people that have a proven track record of success. Why would you not trust them? I'm not saying puppet trade them. I'm not saying enter and exit. You know, obviously that's not what this is designed for. But if you've blown up multiple accounts and then you have people who have a proven successful track record trying to help you, you know, it just doesn't compute for me that you wouldn't heed their advice or take a step back in paper trade and try to at least mimic some of their successful routines or practices in the market. Because to me, that's what's helped me to actually start down the road of becoming a successful trader.
Yeah,
I mean, think about it. He's blowing up already without your help. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen if he takes your help? He's going to blow up, right? That's the worst thing that could. He's doing that on his own. Why not try a different path?
But I'll tell you what's the worst thing that we do as a community. We take away people's fun. Wait, what? I mean, think about it. What sounds better? You better learn how to risk manage. Or, hey, do you want to drive a Lamborghini? I mean, think about it. Yeah. Which actually sounds good. And I mean, whether or not you want to deal with our community or somebody else, the best sign of somebody's trying to help you is, are they telling you boring things? Or are they telling you fun stuff?
Hey,
partying with a bunch of girls in a bikini on a yacht versus, hey, you got to develop a trade plan based in risk management. Which sounds better?
But it goes back to that
bikinis in a yacht.
It goes back to the instant gratification versus having to do work.
Exactly. What's fun? Having instant gratification of fun or actually having to work? I mean, trust me, the business model really should be, hey, I'll tell you where to buy. I'll tell you where to sell. Look at all these gains I got. You know, I got this. Check out this helicopter, you know. Follow me. I'll create a millionaire out of you. Just start talking. I'm about to lose it.
No, but it goes back to the professional comment I made. I mean, once again, like you said, I mean, if you're getting into the stock market because you think it's going to be fun, I'm going to be a millionaire in a couple months. I mean, stay away, because at the end of the day, once again, as we talked about earlier, you're going to come right in here with the big boys. I mean, this isn't little league basketball. I mean, you're going to be playing with the NBA level traders from day one. So it behooves you to either be willing to put the work in to learn how to handle it and make and profit in those scenarios, or stay away because you're going to lose your money. It's as simple as that.
And I think it's absolutely imperative to say that. I mean, you really nailed it, Clay, in the sense that we really do take the fun out of trading. And to be completely honest with you guys, when I first started trading, it would be super exciting to see a great gain or something like that. And don't get me wrong, I love when my account is going up. But at the same time, to me, this is a job. I show up at it like it's a job. I get up. I have to prepare for it like it's a job. And when I'm in trades, half the time I'm bored. I set my order. I have a stop loss in, a target in, and it's literally just completely mechanical for me. And for you advanced options traders, which I'm also doing as well, I mean, that's pretty much set and forget. You check in, you manage it, but the highs and lows of trading have just completely kind of gone flat for me. And if you talk to any experienced trader with a good track record, you will hear from them that, if they have a huge day, they might go, yeah, this is great. Maybe I'll go buy a coffee or take my wife out to dinner or something. But it's not like, woo, we're going to go buy a mansion right now on a cliff or something like that, because, this is literally just a job. And if you do it, it's all about habits and good kind of practices. And, it's not fun. It's not sexy to say that, I show up here, I set my orders, and it either works or it doesn't. If it doesn't, I'm okay with it. It's not, it's not as exciting to say, make this one trade of your life and buy a yacht and, go retire in the Mediterranean Sea or something. So, yeah, you couldn't have said it any better than you did.
Yeah, it's just, if you get the feeling the least of infomercial type kind of, feel like an infomercial, run the other way, please. Just run the other way. If you get the feeling that's, this is kind of boring. All this person is talking about is managing risk and stop losses and, risk this and risk control that and managing that in regards to risk. Why isn't this guy talking about getting all kinds of gains? Where's the girls in bikinis? I want to talk about gains. I want to talk about that moolah. If they're not talking about any of that stuff, that's a good thing, because that stuff is a byproduct of risk management forming good habits, and all that other stuff. But if their main focus is, just, talking about all the fun stuff, the late night infomercial stuff, it's just not going to work out. Well, fellas, we've been talking for like a long time now. I'm looking at the Skype thing. We're going on like 2 hours recording. So I think we need to start to wrap this up. But if anybody has anything final they want to, let me ask this. Did everybody have a good time? I mean, did everybody feel like they got enough time to talk?
Absolutely.
I did. I spent enough time with you as it is, Clay. So yeah, it was good to have
You
some
know
more
what?
guests.
Somebody.
This was fun.
It was.
Yeah, no, I had a good time.
All right.
Even
Good. So,
even though everybody hates me.
I mean, it was more of a laid back environment. I mean, obviously getting multiple people on here, different ideas, different thought process. I thought it was pretty beneficial.
I don't hate you, Nate.
No, I know. You're the only one, Doc. You and me, we'll stay together.
That's it.
Nate,
That's it.
I've never gave you any hate, man. What's up here?
That's
Come on.
true. That's probably true. Till tonight.
he was nice to you. I was trying to prod him down the path, but
I gave
he
you
rebuffed
props on
me.
your
He did a
success.
good job. He
Yeah,
he
that's
didn't fall
right.
for the traps I set for him.
I mean,
was trying
don't
to get him.
I don't want anybody to think like I'm like, playing the world's smallest violin and I need some sad song. I know it's only Clay and I poking fun, and the main reason is because nobody else will make fun of Clay besides me. And if I didn't make fun of him,
Plenty of people make fun of me every single day. What do you mean?
I'm allowed to now. Yeah, I'm allowed to now. So I do it all the time on the podcast.
Nate, he's got that
Almost
band
like
button.
brothers.
All right. Well, I'm wrapping this up, and I really hope. Again, I started. I'm going to end with this. If you thought this was funny, if you thought this was beneficial, if you thought this was anything, and would like us to try to have group discussions, whether it's maybe not necessarily with the same three guys or whatever, then who knows? Maybe you thought we all had the greatest chemistry ever, and you want to hear from us all again. But let us know in the comment section. I'm curious to see how this goes across. If you thought it was a train wreck, then let us know that it was a train wreck and to never do it again. But I'll probably send Wilson and his, what did you say, your physical specimen of a body after you to rough you up a little bit. So,
yeah. All 5'2", 111 pounds soaking wet of me.
yeah, exactly. So, but let us know. And in all seriousness, thank you guys. I appreciate you doing this and hanging out with Ches and I, especially Ches. He's really, am I a good guy for dealing with Ches on the routine basis that I do?
Here we go with all the bashing.
Here we go.
just
Here we
end
go.
it.
It's too late for the bashing. End this thing.
See, you guys are too good. You guys spend too much time with my webinars. You know all my Jedi mind tricks that I try to trick people with, so it doesn't even work. So good on all you guys. All right, well, we were definitely wrapping this up. So for you listeners out there, if you enjoyed this, again, leave feedback. Click that share button if you're listening at claytrader.com. If you're listening to this on iTunes, leave us a rating. Things like that go a long way. And if you're just thinking about, hey, maybe try to the inner circle, give it a try. It's a good group of guys. This is kind of what you witnessed. If you were totally offended or if you thought that we're just a bunch of jerks talking about, hitting the bid and all that sort of stuff, then yeah, you probably shouldn't want to join us. But, this kind of gives a taste of, how the chat room operates. We're just hanging out, having a good time, and, give it a try if you're kind of on the edge. So thank you for hanging out. Happy 2-year anniversary, and we will see everybody back for the next episode.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.